Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Boy. I'm your host, John Francis Fahey. Joining me as ever, what kind of fucking barbecue does this guy like? Mesquite. Aaron Joseph Pita. Mesquite.
I love mesquite. I love your skeet too.
Thanks, man.
John came out of the bathroom and goes, I just thought of one.
While I was taking a nice big whiff.
Yeah.
Big whiff of mesquite.
Yeah.
Oh, from your bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, you're
Got
sitting-
high on my own shit.
Yeah, dude. You're just sitting there
You're
over
getting
the-
high on your own shit, man.
Hey, well, don't get high on your own supply. You know how that ends up.
To your right, Aaron. My left.
That's Matt Brousseau.
Hi.
Handsome Matt Brousseau, Frenchman henchman,
Hello.
Cape God.
Hello.
Mhm.
Hi.
What's up?
Hey, nothing.
What's up?
What's up with you? What are you guys doing?
I'll tell you what I'm doing is I'm trying to sell these profile shirts. Guys,
You got to get the shirts.
get on Etsy. Get a shirt. We're trying to build a fucking studio.
Come on, man.
You don't got a shirt. And the shirts you do have are stained and they're disgusting.
With mesquite.
And ours are good fitting, nice,
You can stain them?
Comfortable.
comfortable,
Yeah.
great,
Cruelty-free.
cruelty-free.
As far as we know.
You can come on them.
Yeah, you can come on.
Spit.
Yeah, use your old shirts as a cum rag, dude. Come on. Waste not, want none.
Yeah, your old
Want
shirts. Your old shirts are strictly for mesquite. Okay.
Barbecue stains all over
Now,
'em.
these new shirts you wear out. You're talking about piss. You're talking about freaking at the teak.
Talking about pipe hitters.
Talking about Hard Pipe Hitters Union. Just get, they're on sale. They're on sale. We're trying to build a studio. Help us out. Buy a fucking shirt, man.
Yeah.
Come on. What are you doing?
Come on.
All right, Aaron. You're doing one today that I have long been fascinated with.
Yeah, this is it's a good one.
Always been on the list.
Yeah, right? It's taking a while, but we're getting some of the...
Some of them are just so obvious sometimes that you're like...
They go right up. We don't even...
Oh, it's just it's just too much to do. Just
Yeah, that's the one I got the idea for yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, duh, do that. I'm not gonna say what it is, but anyway.
Yeah, we're saving some big ones for when we've got the studio as well.
This is also a guy too where I think, I did probably like a book report like in 5th grade again.
I think everybody did. At least every boy.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I was always choosing like that or like Evel Knievel or other profilable people. You know what I mean?
Bruce Banner.
Whatever you can get your hands on that's pretty weird for elementary school.
Yeah.
Did you say Bruce Banner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read his book.
Famous scientist, Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is right. Today we are going to be starting. I think this is gonna be a 2-parter. I'm actually positive it is.
Yes.
Or more of one Harry Houdini.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Heard of this guy?
I believe so.
Yeah. Now, I expect he was not born Harry Houdini.
That is correct.
Whoa.
In Harry Houdini by Harry Houdini, in the Magic Annual of 1910, he wrote that my birth occurred April 6th, 1874, in the small town of Appleton in the state of Wisconsin,
I've been there.
the United States of America.
Uh-huh.
Did you see any Houdini stuff?
No, actually, I did not.
Kind of its claim to fame, that, and I think Willem Dafoe.
No shit.
Yes.
Probably a lot of Defoe's.
Beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, God's country.
Cheese curds.
Alcoholics.
Yeah. A lot of alcohols.
So that statement is a total lie.
Oh.
He was born March 24th in Budapest of what was then, I believe, the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Ah, okay.
Jesus Christ.
He was born to the Reverend Dr. Mayor Samuel Weiss and Cecilia.
This is Houdini. You can't trust him.
No, you cannot trust this guy. This guy is a bullshit artist, among many things. He would be one of 7 children.
Nice. 7 sons.
Mayor Samuel Weiss was he studied law over there in Budapest, and he also studied.
You're saying this is Harry?
No, Mayor Samuel, his father.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Studied to be a rabbi, and Cecilia would shit out 7 kids.
Cool.
so they were experiencing some, the rumblings of anti-Semitism over there in Europe.
It starts with a little.
It starts with a whisper, but it goes back a long time. There's a rich history of anti-Semitism in the West.
Yeah, it's like a season over there.
Yeah.
And so, kind of reading the writing on the wall, there are other explanations for why his father left.
He lost his key to the house.
But if only he had somebody knew locks.
Yeah.
It's probably because there was less anti-Semitism in the States, shocking, and more job opportunity, and
they didn't know what Jewish people were.
so his
Once
father
they found out, they were not thrilled.
Oh boy.
His father went first, and actually, like Appleton was there were like Catholics and Protestants and all sorts of different Christian denominations. They all like pushed together and raised money to build a temple for the Jews in Appleton.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And he was the rabbi there. And so a few years later,
Sent for the litter.
yeah, sent for the litter, and they all came over via steamship.
Nice.
The rest of his origin myth is up for debate, but I'll read it anyway. Right?
Okay.
So his precociousness and restlessness starts as the story goes with his mother's Apfelkuchen, her little apple cakes,
Oh,
and he loved them.
they sound good.
They
Yeah,
sound
I mean,
great,
yeah.
right?
Probably-
Apfelkuchen.
Keeps him on the windowsill.
Well, he would always go get them.
Yeah.
He'd climb up and get them, and then she had to start putting them in a box.
Oh.
And then guess what he did? He go in the box,
Yeah.
and he get the Apfelkuchen.
Oh, he started fucking picking the locks.
Yeah, and then she started
Picking the
locking
box,
them.
yeah.
She started locking up the goddamn Apfelkuchen, and then he started figuring out ways to get in there. I don't know how true that is, but it's the story that he told.
Should have put it in the
Probably
map.
doing all that like nitrogen stuff where you blow it up and all that.
Yeah.
He's doing all that shit.
Yeah, really gastronomical stuff.
Yeah.
If you only put it in a mask.
It's a deconstructed Apfelkuchen. He would as a youngster, he'd go to, there'd be like the little penny circuses and stuff in the carnival, and so he was fascinated by the acrobats and whatnot. So as a kid, he started he would run home, get some rope, tie it between the trees, and try and tightrope walk, fall, and fucking hurt himself. Apparently, he saw one of the guys suspend himself by his teeth from a rope.
Good.
Good God.
But the trick is the guy's got like a mouthpiece to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Little Eric Weiss.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned his name.
No.
He was born Eric Weiss.
Okay.
Right.
Not Harry Houdini.
Yes.
Right.
Son of Meyer Samuel Weiss and Cecilia.
Which means white, I believe.
I do think Weiss means white.
In German,
Yes.
yeah.
W.
EISS.
That's correct. So he'd hang from tree branches and practice tumbling and stretching. He thought it was the bee's knees. There's not a lot going on back then.
No, it was the bee's knees back then.
By the age of 9, him and his friend Jack Hoffler, they joined a little 5-cent circus around town and started performing, little fucking tumbles and jumbles and bullshit magic tricks.
Yeah, fucking nonsense.
His mom makes some tights for him so he looks like the guys that he sees over there in the circus.
Yeah.
He would say that he was a real contortionist by that age, that he could dangle upside down and pick pins off the ground with his eyelids. But more likely his teeth.
Yeah. Still pretty good.
It's pretty fucking good. It's during this age that he started learning that he could dislocate joints. And he was a very athletic little wiry kid. Wasn't like a big athlete, but he was just he was just real strong,
Well built.
nimble, right?
Yeah.
He said he was fascinated by locks, probably because of the Apfelkuchen. I'd say he'd wander junkyards and whatnot. But what we do know is that by the time he was 11, he got an apprenticeship at a locksmith in Milwaukee.
That's good.
And the story goes that one day, the local sheriff walks in with a perp who's locked up in cuffs. And, the guy says, listen, man, this guy, I don't know why, but the judge threw out the guy's case. I lost the key. Locksmith, can you get the guy out? And I think they busted a couple of saws trying to get him out.
Wow.
And then they're like, you know what? Let the kid do it. Let's you and me go get some beers. So they leave the perp with young, 11-year-old
Harry Houdini?
Eric Weiss.
Eric Weiss.
To work on
They left the child alone with the criminal.
That's right.
Smart.
I mean, he was cuffed.
Yeah, but not for long.
Nope. So
I like boys.
he had
What were you arrested for?
he had a button hook and he fucked with some piano wire and by the time the sheriff came back, the guy was
sprung.
free. The guy was sprung from the locks, and he said that's like one of the only guys in the world that knew his secret, which is basically picking locks.
Yeah.
There's nothing magic,
Right.
He had a knack for knock.
Well, he might have said abracadabra.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Abra.
He and his future wife Bess would recount this story so much to so many newspapers and magazines and all that stuff that it's basically the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
In the book Houdini! 3 exclamation parts. 3 exclamation parts.
That's right.
That was when he was fucking in front of a train.
Yeah.
Houdini!
In the book Houdini, the career of Eric Weiss, American self-liberator, Europe's eclipsing sensation, world handcuff king, and prison breaker, nothing on earth can hold Houdini a prisoner. That's the title.
World self-liberator.
God.
That's a great phrase.
They just start writing the book on the cover.
Yeah.
Only 5 pages are dedicated to his childhood.
Yeah, that sounds
So
right.
it's very it's just kind of mysterious. Fucking New Testament. How many pages are dedicated to little baby Jesus?
Yeah.
Page and a half.
Yeah.
The story begins.
Skip to 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story begins.
Right.
2 weeks later.
So as he got older into his teens, there were conflicting accounts about what his height would be, but he was about 5'6".
Yeah.
Slight but wiry.
Yeah.
And a really good athlete. He boxed, and he was a runner. He boxed at the AAU organization, and he would beat the future champ in the 115-pound division.
Mm-hmm.
He had the record for running around Central Park. He defeated an Englishman who would go on to be like a world record holder.
Really?
As a long distance runner. He was a great swimmer. And kind of like
Wait, is this all in Wisconsin though? You said Central Park.
well, he would go to Central Park.
Okay, got it.
They'd move to New York later, but there's a picture of him like with all these medals in his swimsuit, in those old timey swimsuits.
Yeah.
And he's like looking on top of it.
I've seen that before.
4 of those are real.
Yeah.
The rest he just made.
Yeah.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Smart.
Like from the beginning, this dude is crafting the legend.
Yeah.
So his father's having a hard time with employment. He's an older gentleman as well. He's got 7 kids. And so the story is that the local the Jewry of Appleton thought that he wasn't with the times. He was just old fashioned. He barely spoke English. He was still doing service in German. And so they kind of like said like, nah, we'll find some nice young Jewish boy.
We need something hip. We need a hip synagogue.
Yeah. So
Rabbi Weiss, we're over it.
so the family runs on some tough times as far as money. There's 7 little mouths to feed and a couple of adult mouths to feed.
Yeah. We put the foreskins back on.
They had to eat them. They saved them for a rainy day.
You want to see me stuck up?
You'll never starve, man.
So when
Hello,
Eric,
Everest.
when Eric turned 12, his father called him into a room and said, "My boy, I am poor in this world's goods, but rich in the wonderful woman God gave as my wife and your mother."
I'm sorry, I abhor?
I am poor.
I am poor.
I am poor in this world's goods, but rich in the wonderful woman God gave as my wife and your mother. Rich also in the children we have brought into the world and raised to sturdy manhood. Promise me, my boy, that after I am gone, your dear mother will never want for anything. Promise that you will make her declining days as carefree and comfortable as I have tried to make them. And Houdini said that, with all my heart, I gave him that promise. He would be a mama's boy for his entire life. But
Jewish kid? No way.
I know, it's crazy. But the next morning,
Hello, mother.
the next morning, he runs away from home.
The next morning after that discussion?
Yeah, because he wants,
I gotta go make my money.
I gotta go make some money.
That's interesting.
Not here.
Man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
These are tough times, man. These are tough times.
Appleton then.
So there is a
They didn't even have apples.
No.
he would send his mother a postcard after he ran away.
Mm-hmm.
And it would show up later in Houdini's own like scrapbooks of his ephemera and personal effects. And the postcard says, "Dear Ma, I'm going to Galveston, Texas, and I will be home in about a year. My best regard to all. Did you get my picture? If you didn't, write to Mead Bros, Woodstock, Illinois. Your truant son, Eric Weiss." He didn't go to Texas. In his own scrapbook, underneath the picture goes, "I was on my way to Texas." Just made it up.
Or maybe he thought he was.
He went to Kansas City.
You know, that's south.
Yeah, close enough.
He went to Kansas City and he bounced around a few other places, probably trying to join P.T. Barnum's outfit.
Makes sense.
He shined shoes and found odd jobs, trying to send money back to support the family. But in general, the runaway was a failure. He goes back home, basically just in time for his dad to like take him. They moved to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
They live in a boarding house on East 79th Street. This is around 1888. And so his dad figured that like, there's a lot of Jews in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like the population went from like 80,000 Jews in New York to like 1 million, like real quick.
Yeah.
I may be fudging the numbers a little bit, but over that in that late 1800s,
You don't want to be weird with counting Jews.
No.
That's why I'm giving it
Oh,
a
yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
But the population like exploded with Jews in New York. A lot of, it's not like they had rabbits. They're all coming from Europe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know the thing is like real quick sidebar, but like there's the thing of with the 23andMe and stuff.
Yeah.
People are finding out they're more Jewish, but like they had to hide it.
Yeah.
You'd be
Yeah,
killed.
yeah, exactly.
So like the Jewish diaspora is far, far bigger than what is known.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we had our roommate back when she did it, Tara, and she was going, "Yeah, there was way more Jewish in me than I knew." She goes, "I mean, I knew I was Jewish." I was like, Tara, that's very good. That's very good. I knew I was Jewish.
That's what I think George Santos used that same line.
Really?
Yeah.
When I got mine back and it had 0.01 South Saharan African, I was throwing up the Wakanda forever.
Oh yeah.
Weak.
Yeah.
And then they adjusted it and it went away.
Ah, they probably heard.
man.
They're like, nah,
You can't handle
somebody
it.
sweated in the vial.
it was probably your COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
I took it out. This is white people shit.
And so, he works a variety of jobs to help support the family. He works at Richter's son's neckwear factory. Maybe he learns to tie some knots. I don't know.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He worked there for a couple of years from 1889 to 1891. And now it's the site of Bloomingdale, Soho. Fun fact.
Okay.
He met a guy named Jacob Hyman there. Jewish fella. And they would start appearing together in local circuses and sideshows as the brothers Houdini.
Ah.
The name Houdini
Thank you. Yes.
comes from it was very likely that it was Jacob who came up with the name, but it's after this French magician named Robert Houdin. Houdin.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And he has his own story that he made up about his origin. That's half
I've
bullshit.
heard, I've heard of him too. Probably the same. Yeah.
He said he had some food poisoning on a train, fell off, was rescued by a conjurer named Torini, who had this whole elaborate backstory. It's just, these guys are bullshit artists that build their own mythology.
Yeah.
So the popular explanation for Houdini is that they were both fans of Houdin, and that they mistakenly thought that if you added an I to the end of something in French, it meant like or little. So like Houdin or little Houdin, but it reads
Teeny.
Houdini.
Yeah.
And so his name goes from Eric, which is colloquial Airy, to Harry.
Yes.
So he becomes Harry Houdini.
Yeti.
That name, Houdini, is so perfect. It's Madonna,
Right.
Houdini, Beyonce.
Yes.
It's like this 3-syllable easy to remember, ends on a vowel.
Yeah, there's something marquee about it.
It's fucking perfect. Like,
John Wilkes Booth. Yeah.
yep, it's like 7 syllables, but there were
3 syllables. What are you talking about?
John Wilkes Booth.
I don't know. That'd still be 5. But
Okay, so
nice.
that name would be like imitated for 150 years, right?
Yeah.
There was Cardini, Slidini, Haydini, Thompsoni. In 1937, in Nebraska, a young Johnny Carson would read a magic catalog and would dedicate his life to magic, and he called himself the Great Carsoni.
Yes.
Wow.
There was Smoothini, the Ghetto Houdini.
Did they have
Like that? The Smoothini?
the Smoothini?
Smoothini, the Ghetto Houdini.
Smoothini.
Black fella.
Right. That's
That's really good.
When he went on America's Got Talent, he changed it to Smoothini, the hip hop Houdini.
Now, was there ever a nudini?
Oh, like this ain't your grandpa's Houdini?
No. Like I'm nude and I'm doing fucking magic.
Well, Houdini would later go on
To do nudes.
to do stuff.
Nudinis.
Yeah. So after a little while with Jacob, he partners with his brother Theo, whose nickname was Dash, and they
Real brother.
one of his
Vice.
5. Yeah, he was a Vice bro, and they then performed as the Houdini brothers, or the brothers Houdini. Got rid of Jacob Hyman.
Yeah.
And they would perform at penny circuses and at Coney Island. They were at Coney Island a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they would be performing like 20 shows a day. Again, this is like on the boardward. It's not like in a theater.
Of course, yeah.
They're doing 20 shows a day of bullshit.
Yeah.
And you know, it was like birthday party type of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until they got their hands on something called the Metamorphosis. So the Metamorphosis was a drunk escape, and they weren't anything like real new, but they go back to before the Civil War and to the beginning of the spiritualism movement.
Oh, okay.
And we talked about it on the show, the spiritualism movement.
Quite a bit.
It had a real big foothold in especially America. The Europeans did not buy spiritualism. And it would pop up. It would like peak after wars for obvious reasons. People want to talk to their fucking dead brother and shit.
Yeah.
There were the Fox sisters. You did a great profile on, Matt. And then there were their knockoffs were the Davenport brothers of Buffalo, and they were the guys who did something called the Spirit Box. And the Spirit Box would be where like the boys would tie themselves up. They get tied up, bound by their ankles and hands, and get put into a box. And then people would ask spiritualists, how's my mom doing? She's dead. And they'd be in the box with instruments, and the instruments would play despite their hands being tied behind the box.
Okay.
Real hokey shit.
Right. Your mom's putting out. She's a real whore.
Your mom is real.
Your mom
horny. She's horny. I'm playing the whore. So, and so the trick is, person inside the box bound, and well, at least the metamorphosis is somebody is bound in the box, sometimes, or at least bound in a burlap sack. They get in the box. And then in very short order, the person switches places with the person outside of the box behind a curtain.
Gotcha.
It's a trick.
Got it.
But nobody else was really doing it. And like you could be doing it back in this day, like news travels slow. So you could be bouncing around the Midwest. Or you see we're doing the fucking metamorphosis and blowing people's minds. So people really didn't know how these young guys got this trick.
Yeah.
They kind of came out of nowhere. But apparently there was this guy named Joe Godfrey. And he was like Houdini before Houdini, apparently. They called him the man of mystery. And he, newspapers would say things like, Godfrey, the man of mystery, laughs at prison irons and shackles and ropes cannot hold him. Things that would, go on to be said.
Just laughing at inanimate objects.
Balls and chains.
Yeah. Look at you.
So apparently this guy just like petered out. And exactly when he disappeared is when the brothers Houdini appeared with the metamorphosis. So it's very likely he was down on his luck and sold the trick to the brothers Houdini. And that like kind of put them on what you would call a map.
Yeah.
And the metamorphosis was the switching.
Yeah, so
Switcheroo.
they would tie up Harry or his brother
Theo, baby Theo.
Dash.
into either they'd bound him like you'd see with ropes around their hands and ankles or in a bag. And they locked them in the trunk, and then they'd hold up what they called the cabinet, which was really just like a hula hoop with a curtain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they would switch places in 10 seconds or whatever like that. The trick is explained online in a million places. It's really stupid and simple. Sometimes the bag has a zipper at the bottom. There's a trick panel in the back of the box, and you can make a switch very quickly with practice.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
Practice.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they didn't call it a trunk escape. They called it the metamorphosis.
Right.
It's a buzzword.
Way better name. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy, and then it also adds a lot of weight to whoever hears about it through word of mouth.
Yeah. And if you read Kafka, you're like, oh, this guy's going to turn into a fucking bug.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe trunk escape means you escape from a trunk. Metamorphosis means
I'm different.
Yeah.
I changed.
Yeah.
And I go through stuff now. I've been going through a lot of
a
stuff.
fucking butterfly, dude.
Yeah, he'd have volunteers come up to tie him securely using rope and later handcuffs and chains.
Kinky.
Sometimes he would put on a dinner jacket from a volunteer in the crowd, and even like that would switch too. Like he was really good at shit.
Showmanship.
Yeah, his showmanship, knowing what would really get people going.
That's so fucking smart. Those little touches, really, just such a.
He was.
But while they're switching, how do you not see them? Somebody's got to be out front while the trick's going on.
They hold up the cabinet, or it gets held up, and then it gets dropped.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd have an assistant, but it's usually just him.
Got it.
A few years later, Papa Weiss gets cancer of the tongue. Not unlike the father of our good friend Aleister Crowley.
Wow.
Cancer of the tongue.
Another religious man getting cancer of the tongue. Speak the word of God, man. You better play with fire.
Do it.
So he dies in 1892. Harry was 18.
Damn.
In 1893, the brothers Houdini perform on the Midway at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago.
They're probably doing gross tobacco stuff, right?
Or smoking cigars, or just also like, dude, man, I don't know. Life's hard.
Yeah. Like licking doorknobs or something.
Yeah.
So he's performing with his brother after ditching Jacob Hyman. And then they meet another performer named Wilhelmina Beatrice Ronner. And she was a nice young Catholic girl. It's very likely that she dated Dash first, and maybe a couple other Harry's friends. But eventually, after a 3-week courtship, Harry and 18-year-old Bess, as she went by, they're married. I think they decide to get married on Coney Island. She pays for the ring because he's broke.
Every time he reaches in, his pockets are empty.
Yeah, she would joke that she sold her virginity to Harry for an orange. But they were like really in love. They were in love.
That's good.
And Harry would say, "This is the one shackle I don't want to escape from."
Oh, that's nice.
And she would replace Dash in the act. Having a nice, pretty young girl around.
It'll do.
Yeah.
That'll do, pig.
Nice.
Yeah, especially when she's had all these oranges. I mean, Jesus Christ.
And people had scurvy back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So then they go on the road with the Metamorphosis. And they're doing okay. It's nice. They had a couple of good weeks, and like they got to spend a week in a hotel, and like that week we lived
seeing the world
like royalty. But eventually, audiences kind of lose interest. It's like, oh, he's in a box, and then she's in a box. I'm gonna give the show.
Come on, when am I gonna get in the box?
Yeah. I'm the box guy.
You got food in the box?
Now is that a penalty box?
Give me some of them oranges, man.
We have a box factory here in town.
And so then they just started like throwing shit at the wall to see if it would stick. There was really like no job in show business that was beneath Houdini. He was fucking driven.
Yeah.
This guy was
Consummate.
like a maniac.
Yeah.
They would appear as the Runners, America's greatest comedy act. Then he would appear as a
Sort of vaudeville, you know.
sleight of hand magician, Harry Raynor, or how about a hypnotist called Professor Murat? For a few days here, he appeared as Prohia, the wild man of Mexico,
Oh, that's good.
where he would growl while trainers threw raw slabs of meat. As far, I think the only thing he didn't do was being a geek.
Yeah. He didn't eat that meat.
The stint as Prohia, the wild man of Mexico, ended when he was hit in the eye with a piece of raw meat.
Oh,
That was just too much.
that'll do it. I mean, that'll stop any career. It doesn't matter what it is.
There was a very famous movie made about Houdini with Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh.
I was thinking the other day, I was like, is there a big movie?
The Magic Man?
I think it was called Houdini.
Oh.
And
I don't know what the Magic
they were real life husband and wife, and they played the husband and wife.
Yeah.
Method act.
So much bullshit in there in that movie, but they did show him as a wild man. They
Great.
changed the name, but they did show him in these low points.
And the whole time the guy on stage is going, why couldn't I get the regular man? Sorry, that's just theater acting.
So for a while in 1897, he and Bess they dabbled as spiritualists.
Oh, they were contacting the dead?
For a traveling medicine show.
Uh-huh.
Yes. I mean, the Victoria Woodhull.
Exactly.
Her father did the same thing.
So they were part of the California Concert Company. The company would put on shows to sell medicine that was a, quote, cure-all for all mortal ills.
I feel like every family band has done the same thing.
Are we around like 1894 here?
1897.
97, got it.
Yeah.
You would read... The Kansas Garnet Journal would write about the show. The week's engagement was pretty successful financially, and we have not yet heard of any deaths resulting from taking their medicines.
Oh, okay. We have not yet.
Jesus.
That did happen a lot. That was a big issue with the medicine.
So
There were herbs,
There's a
man.
big issue with the water, too.
yeah.
As well, you know,
Everything would do it back then. Your own tongue would turn on you.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus
a
Christ.
couple of things.
I've known it my whole life.
Your whole own religion. I died of Judaism.
I think it's Toymanol. So, excuse me. A couple of things would happen from this spiritualism stuff. Houdini would become friends with one Joe Keaton, who was the father figure of a vaudeville act that mostly involved Joe and his wife Myra falling down and smashing into walls and doing stupid shit like slapstick
Is this a Buster Keaton?
comedy.
Wait,
had
it was the what were their names again?
Joe Keaton
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's kind
and Myra Keaton.
Yeah.
And they had this, vaudeville slapstick comedy stuff. And then also, they also had an 18-month-old son named Joseph.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would Houdini would watch in awe as young Joseph would fall down flights of stairs and then just bounce back if nothing happened.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
And Houdini would say that was a real Buster.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the boy would go on to be
That's
Buster.
incredible.
I think the story is that like one day he like accidentally walked on stage in the middle of performance and they started tossing around and he loved it.
Hey, what do you think you are, Houdini?
Get out of here, Buster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how he's
That's good.
Yeah, the Marx Brothers saw that it's the same act too, yeah.
That's incredible, man. What a time.
Crazy.
Yes.
stuff.
I mean, what a time.
Yeah.
Just like there's a stage, go do something.
Because, I mean, that's like, first, like, superstars.
Oh.
Yes.
Very
much so, yeah.
Like, the thing about the Paramount stars and the studio. The 13 stars are it's the first studio to sign 13 vaudeville stars. Everybody was a free agent before then.
Yeah.
But they were all from vaudeville.
Yeah.
So it was like stars before stars, and they're like, and they're East Coast.
Yeah.
And then it's like they're all gonna come out here like fucking bananas.
Yeah, LA was
insane.
Nothing, a fucking one horse town.
Yeah, total cow town.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why there's only one horse.
The other thing that would come out of this is that they were really quite good at spiritualism.
The Keatons.
No,
No,
the Houdinis.
Oh, got it.
they met the Keatons on that circuit, the California Concert Company. Houdini was smart and observant and crafty and witty, and Bess was also like just like could act and was trustworthy and could fucking sell it.
Damn. It's fucking scoundrels.
He was like super hyper vigilant. He would go to if they were going into a town, he would like go to the cemetery.
Smart.
And just like start like memorizing dates and names. He would at one point they pretended to be Bible salesmen. And so they would say like, oh, we got this musical Bible or whatever. And so they would go to people's houses on their Bibles, and like what better way to sell people a new Bible is by looking at their existing Bible. And so people would back in the day would like write in their Bible.
Oh yeah.
And so he'd get all the dirt on people by looking in their Bibles.
That's
and
brilliant.
then when we would go do these seances and stuff, he'd have all the fucking shit memorized that he could, piece together or weasel his way into making people believe he was talking to the dead.
Wow. Yeah, you imagine for most people, like they got the Bible, a lot of Bibles for free or something, and that was like
Gideons.
one of the few things they could write in.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like they had piles of books floating around,
Sure.
One day he was in town doing the shtick, and he saw some boy riding around town on a bicycle, and then later at that show, a woman, asked for some proof of his power, and he said, "Oh, your son's gonna have a horrible accident," and then some kid broke his arm off falling on a bicycle.
Oh my god!
And he was like, "Oh fuck, this is getting kind of real."
Yeah.
And
yeah, you don't want to say like, yeah, there's a terrible thing that's gonna happen. Someone's husband dies, and they're like, "You did this."
Right, despite he had no problem lying.
Yeah.
So long as it was in service of his own mythology and not, preying on the good intentions of gullible people.
Yeah. I would say he was doing exactly that.
Well, that's why he stopped doing spiritualism.
Got it.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I'll lie about myself.
Me, yeah. Totally.
I don't agree. I don't want to lie and tell you that like I can talk to your dead mom.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
He's a good boy.
And they were making pretty good money at this point at a time when the Magic Act was not.
Yeah.
And even then, they they still they shuttered the spiritualism act altogether because he just couldn't live with himself for it, and he wanted to kind of make it on his own accord without.
Good for you, Eric.
That is very
Harry.
Good for you, Harry.
So,
Harry.
It's 1898. Harry.
1898. New metal's bumping.
No. It's called Steel.
Acid jazz.
He
around
was
the
24
corner.
and he's kind of running in circles. Doesn't want to do the spiritualism thing. The Trunk Act is not doing so hot. And he's worried he's following in his father's footsteps. Like, am I going to be this guy who I know was intelligent and loved his family, but like couldn't provide?
Yeah.
Can't get right.
And so they move in with his mom.
His mom.
Yeah, Cecilia. His brother-in-law gets him a job at Yale Lock Factory, which is nice.
Yeah, is that near the school?
No, it's in New York. I think his mom.
They didn't have a lot of words back then.
It's it's.
I think his mom was living in Harlem.
New York class.
I think they were living in Harlem. Things were really bad. Like, he was writing to famous magicians, begging to be an assistant. He offered to sell his act. He published Magic Made Easy. I can read you from that. He tried to open a school of magic. He promised to teach all branches of spiritualism, slate writing, and sleight of hand. Like I said, he included the pamphlet Magic Made Easy. It's all like stock magic trick bullshit.
Hide shit.
Yeah.
Get him an assistant with big cans. The biggest cans. You get to say he's the best magician of all time.
They'll never look at your hands.
The cans are so severe.
They will look at your hands when they're looking at the cans.
For 50 cents, he promised to teach anyone how to make a word appear on his or her arm as if written in blood. For $1, he would show a customer how to hypnotize animals. This is very easy to do, he would say.
Cool. Just hit it with a hammer.
He would also give here's some friendly advice.
Nice.
First, practice. Second, practice.
Yeah.
And practice before a mirror. Never repeat your tricks to the same audience the same evening. Don't tell them what you're going to do, as the effect of tricks become greater when they are unexpected. Don't expose your tricks, as they lose their value into common. And borrow all the coin you can and forget to return it. That's one way of making money, but there are others.
That's very good.
So while you're on stage, does anybody have a silver dollar?
yeah.
Forget to give it back.
Yeah.
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 See that? Well, it disappeared.
Yeah. Look,
It's gone.
Sorry, I
I'm a
promised you
magician.
it would disappear.
I'm not a banker.
You look like fucking Greenspan to you.
He offered secrets. He offered pretty much his whole act. I mean, it wasn't great, but he did have a couple of good ones. He had the Hindu needle trick, where you swallow 40 to 50 sewing needles, and then a bunch of thread, and then you bring them all up threaded.
I love that. That's amazing.
Penn and Teller still do this trick.
Damn.
Yeah. He offered it for $5. He offered his entire
a
hand.
tiny sum back then.
Oh, it was nice.
Yeah.
Better than kicking the balls.
Yeah. It depends how much it was.
He offered up metamorphosis.
Whose balls?
And nobody bought it.
So he's in like he's in his low of the low. He's
Yeah.
this is where the great get going.
Yeah, exactly. He were reaching rock bottom here.
Yeah.
It's very fortuitous that nobody bought his act.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like I was saying to you guys, I was like, I got this new profile I'm doing, or I was inspired to do.
John Aaron's doing a pro. Go on.
But it's the same fucking.
It's a plug for John's next.
No, it's the same thing where it's you go back to the mom's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've gone on this great journey of exploration, and you've seen all this stuff, and you've kind of come up with nothing.
And that's right before it pops.
it's right before it pops.
Yeah.
And it's like something about
It's that final test.
like it's. I mean, in
the
this case,
Campbell's-
it's the reckoning with
The journey. Yeah.
the father,
Right.
But it's always with the mom.
Yeah, well,
The mom is the one that still has the house.
Right, the dad's dead.
Yeah.
But it's an internal reckoning with the father.
It is.
right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going into the tree, and you see Vader's mask over your face.
And you're going like, because it's the thing where it's going like, you're like, all right, well, who am I really? You know, and figuring yourself out.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
I mean, there's a reason that it's in mythology, is because it seems to be this pattern that we all have. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
But then,
Men.
how do you make diamonds?
Yeah, like when Jesus got back from Pakistan after all that kinky shit.
Yeah. He was like that's why they skipped it.
Yeah.
They couldn't talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that
he was
shit.
learning the Karma Sutra,
Yeah.
like that, the Karma Sutra.
I did.
How do you think he has so many followers? Oh, because the talking.
Because they were doing the human centipede.
I didn't know where else to go.
Literally.
So, it's 1899, and things aren't going great, but he has a couple of lingering contracts that he has to fulfill for a couple of shows in Chicago.
Right?
And so, we don't know the first time he escaped cuffs on stage, but we do know that it was 1895 when he started challenging audience members to bring their own handcuffs and lock them up.
Oh, that's
Damn.
But nobody's got their own handcuffs. It's a gimmick.
well. Anybody who does, you go sex fiend,
But the gimmick was great because maybe there was a cop in the end.
or maybe there's a plant.
Right. Which there would be later.
Yeah.
Who the fuck has handcuffs?
John,
But
it's a different time.
There's probably like one brand.
Yeah.
So
It's not as if like you're like, I'm gonna bring my handcuffs from fucking Bulgaria.
Yeah, these are Houdini brand, Acme hemp brand.
Yeah.
So it's 1899, and he goes to he goes to a police station in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Challenges the cops to lock him up in cuffs. They did. He escaped, and it got a mention in the paper. A few days later, he would go to the police station in Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Oh yeah.
Same thing. Got out in 18 seconds.
Wow.
Full write-up in the paper.
So he's doing a DIY.
Press promo. Yeah.
Press. Exactly. He would measure his success in ink.
That's a very good phrase.
He did it again in Worcester, Mass. And the newspaper the next day would say, he unlocks them all with as much ease as if they were strings around his wrists.
Yeah, you completely ruined the history of the town.
Then he went to Holyoke, where the paper wrote,
boy.
It makes no difference with Mr. Houdini what kind of handcuffs are produced. He unlocks them all with as much ease as if they were strings around his wrists.
You broke the whole town. They were the same.
He was writing them all.
Got it. And sent them into the paper.
Yes.
That's brilliant. That's so good.
He wrote all of his stories that were printed in the early days.
Because that's the thing, too, is that like people forget this thing. It's like they need shit.
Yeah.
They need shit.
No, I mean, Ben Franklin did that all the time.
Yeah.
Just, he had a pseudonym. He had 1,000 pseudonyms just to fill ink, just to fill pages, and also if he did something to brag about that.
Yeah,
Through
another
someone else.
editorial by Fen Branklin.
Fanny Branklin says.
Wait a minute.
Hal Houdini.
Bren Franklin.
Harry Houdini. Wait, I can't switch the letters. So, I want to just correct what I said. That was all from like going on in like 1895.
Okay.
So this is kind of the history of his challenging police to lock him up.
So 99 to 95, we don't really know. Or 99 to... 95.
95 to 99, that's all part of it.
Yeah.
He once told a reporter that I've written for more newspapers than anyone. So
That's so fucking funny.
That's really good.
So it's... but that was just press for the stage act, which was mainly the metamorphosis and some other bullshit stuff.
Yeah.
Sleight of hand and some other pulling fucking threads out of wands or whatever, So going back to 1899, he's trying to sell his act. He's the fucking wild man in Mexico. Pieces of T-bone are hitting him in the orbital.
Yeah.
And so he has to fulfill a last contract in Chicago. So he goes to Chicago and he goes to the police station in Chicago. For all time's sake.
Yeah.
And the Chicago Journal writes, Harry Houdini, the strolling magician, surprised the detectives at police headquarters last night by his ability to remove handcuffs, leg irons, and other articles of police jewelry without unlocking them. For an hour or more, policemen tried to bind him with handcuffs, ropes, and cords, but each time he went behind the curtain of a cabinet he had constructed in the squad room and appeared in a few seconds carrying them in his hand. Houdini laughed at the amazement he caused, but refused to tell the policeman how he accomplished
Yes.
his feats.
Today they would have just shot him.
Our Jesus Christ, he must be a Jew.
Them sneaky Jews be getting out of order.
I made the Chicago Irish right away. And I bet you I'm fucking right.
Jesus fucking Christ, this fucking
Hey, fucking, I tell you what, they're fucking...
this fucking guy, this Jew from New York came by, he fucking made us
fucking
look
guy.
like fucking assholes.
He said, he said my fucking dead father's pretty pissed at me, too.
Metamorphosized into a corpse.
So, after struggling for 6 years, this is kind of his big break. And so he continues he goes around just challenging police departments in cities everywhere to lock him up. And he fucking keeps getting out.
Is that all you got, Lieutenant?
So he would have,
Sucker.
he could do stuff like relax the muscles in his throat where he could swallow like a little egg capsule with a lockpick kit.
Dude, that's a...
He would,
freaky.
Yeah.
sometimes he would like hide a key in his little jufro.
Nice.
He had thick bushy hair, you could hide it in there. Stuff like a little adhesive on the key, like he would go into and he'd slap the back of a police officer and the key would be on the cop's back.
Oh, that's
and so when
really
they turn
good.
around, he could use that to get out.
Oh, that's good.
A false heel in one of his shoes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he would perform with somebody would be like, "Oh, I need more locks. These aren't enough locks." So like he'd have more like padlocks and just make it look like he was like bound by like 10 locks.
Yeah.
Some of those locks were just toolkits. Like a big
course.
Oh, like they're full of
lockpicking shit.
Of course.
Plus,
I was thinking about this when you started this thing because I was thinking about the padlock, the setup of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just going like, if just one of those side plates is fragile,
Yeah.
you have the opening to the entire mechanism,
Yeah.
to play with as you please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
and he did know his shit.
Yes.
Yeah, he worked at two locksmith companies.
And a lock making company, right?
He apprenticed for a locksmith and then he worked for a lock company.
Yeah.
Oh, see, yeah, it's the best of both worlds.
There you go. You close them all over.
So he goes to St. Paul, Minnesota, and this guy Martin Beck reads that he's coming to town. Martin Beck, kind of a mysterious guy himself, but he's a theater owner. He owns many theaters in Minnesota. And
Can we do a quick break?
sure,
Okay.
Is that cool?
yeah.
The Martin Beck, where are we right
Martin
now?
Beck, baby. Martin Beck, St. Paul, Minnesota.
All right, we'll be right back, folks. And we're back.
And we're back.
And
Gotta get back in time.
Deborah?
Okay, so Martin Beck,
Yeah, so this guy Martin Beck, now he's
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
St. Paul, Missouri.
He sounds
So
just like Garrison Keillor.
Beck was an interesting character. He would not tell anybody where he was from or when he was born
Germany.
at different times.
Everybody here can suck my dick.
I'm in the Midwest. There's no Germans here.
Said to have come from Austria, Germany, or Slovakia. But he came to America to be an actor. That much we know. And he failed.
Nice.
Found himself working as a waiter, shocker,
Huh.
in a beer garden in
pathway.
Chicago.
That pathway's always
Yeah.
been available.
He kind of went backwards.
Yeah.
To be a waiter, then be an actor. And then he went to San Francisco with a vaudeville company. There he met a guy named Meyerfield, who through some business deal, one way or another, they came to own the Orpheum.
Wow. That's a hell of a come down.
And Beck and Meyerfield were like, let's keep this fucking train going. So they created the Orpheum Circuit, which was the biggest vaudeville circuit in the western part of the United States.
Nice.
In short order, Beck would become the most prominent man in the whole industry, building the Palace Theater in New York, which was vaudeville's ultimate show
I
place.
think I remember. Yeah, those circuits would be like you go like St. Louis. You just do this tour of the cities.
Yeah, they
Right.
do the Indiana Jones map with the red line.
But it's just a big circle.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a circuit.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what places like they kind of favored. Like you would like Kansas City would be on it.
Of course, yeah. But
Right.
there would even be like the one big town in the small state,
Yeah.
or the one big city in the.
And you know, it kind of
Cincinnati.
starts.
Yeah,
It was
right.
it was some of those
Anywhere there was a fucking train.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. The trains
and the rivers.
and it
Yeah.
would be like those Buffalo Bill recreations of
Yes.
like Western history, all those towns.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So he was a man of many talents, this Beck character, but people would say that his main talent was spotting other talent.
It is a foreign town.
He brought Charlie Chaplin to the American stage. He hired Will Rogers and the Marx Brothers and introduced Fanny Brice and Sophie Tucker.
It really is just a talent in its own right, though.
Yeah,
It's one I do really marvel at.
yeah. When you can just be like, this guy's got something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's there's really
so that's Beck.
something about it.
Becks. So, Beck sees Houdini stuff. Reads the thing about the newspaper, about escaping from police stations all over the place, right? And so he invites Houdini and Bess to a dinner, where he tells Houdini, I think you're a rotten showman. And why don't you cut out all that little magical stuff It only distracts the audience, and just give them a couple big thrillers like the handcuffs and the trunk trick. There are plenty of good magicians doing stock stuff and doing it well. You got 2 big stunts of which nobody can touch you. Those are the big things to cash in on.
That is such a good observation.
It's a very good
Because it's a thing where it's going like this. It's like, all right, you can do this stuff, and you're doing it with meandering comedy, which comes with being a mid-level magician, and then these meandering things, and you're giving people time to yawn. Basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what if you just see a guy and you don't hear a fucking word out of his mouth, and then he goes backwards into a tank with fucking padlocks all over his chest.
Yeah, you can't hear a word because he's in the water.
And you go like, that's all I fucking need.
Yeah.
And increase the mystery.
Yes.
Increase it. And
Nobody gives a shit. He also, not a good magician.
Right.
Like, that's the greatest trick Houdini ever pulled.
Yeah.
Was later generations thinking he was a great magician.
So what would you say he was? An escape artist?
He was the first escape artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he turned escape into magic.
Yeah. There are,
It is.
anybody in.
It is when it's done like this. So
So there's a very famous magician named Di Vernon.
yes, the greatest sleight of hand, the greatest close-up magic magician ever.
Yes.
The man who spent an entire summer finding one gambler who knew how to deal from the middle of the deck, and searched all over the United States for him and found him, and then learned his trick. And
Di Vernon is
what era?
now.
He died, I think, in the 90s, but he was the greatest close-up magician for like 70 years.
Good buck.
Now the greatest is this Spanish guy. Oh God, what's his name? He's an old guy too. Fuck. We'll get to it.
Yeah, no, Diver is profile worthy. I've read a thing about him anyway.
He said he couldn't even shuffle a pack without bending and breaking them. About Houdini. He couldn't do card magic any better than you could. He was not the king of anything when it came to cards. And that Di Vernon's judgment of Houdini is echoed by every other card magician, prestidigitator, if you will. His magic historian Mike Cavaney says Houdini was a butcher. David Copperfield says he was certainly not a great card magician.
PR guy.
Would he have ever seen him?
No, but he owns basically everything Houdini ever touched.
Yeah. Copperfield has like the largest magic museum
in the world.
Yeah.
It's
in Vegas, of course.
Okay, well that'll come up later because I have questions about that.
About what?
Museums?
About what Houdini left behind.
Oh, yes.
And to whom?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll get to that in part 2.
We will get to that in part 2. Did you remember that I said this?
Yes.
Cliffhanger, folks.
Tamariz is the Spanish card magician who is probably the greatest living.
Okay.
Tommy Rice. Good guy. I know him.
His name is Juan Tamariz.
Yeah.
He wears a purple top hat. Looks kind of like a gargoyle.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Not a good look.
Yeah, looks aren't everything.
But
he is the best. So
yeah, because the Irish have so many good looks for my people.
That's all the eye gouging.
Yeah, we got big fucking green hats. You guys got a big purple hat? Oh yeah, God forbid. Some pimpin' Spaniard.
yeah, man.
Some pimpin' close-up magic Spaniard.
How much colonize that ass?
Where were you?
No, but it's a thing too where you go like, so is there a thing where did you get any idea that Houdini just kept doing it because he liked it? Or it was just what's expected because you're a showman?
And he wanted to kind of follow in the footsteps of Robert Houdin.
Yeah.
And, you kind of...
You're not that guy.
You're just it's not that kind of show.
Yeah. Was it you or it might have been Richard Park was telling me about like, he's like, Conan O'Brien was in, he's like, all I wanted to do was be David Letterman.
Yeah.
And he goes, and then you start, and he goes like, you're not going to be David Letterman.
Yeah.
You're going to be Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
And you have to be.
And you got to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. It took him a while to figure out who and what he was.
And it took this guy back to drive it home.
Yeah, gave him a free dinner and told him to stop doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Imagine how cutting it is though to like find out. But then it's so.
But it's this great backhanded compliment that like just cut away all the fat. Like you're a shit magician and you're a shit showman, but you are untouchable at these two things, like the likes of which nobody's ever seen. You're creating a whole new genre of show, right?
It's the Gordon Ramsay thing of pare down the menu.
Yes.
These are the things you're good at.
Yeah.
Why are you selling this other shit?
And you know, it's basically in essence it's kind of the battle of between the two magicians in
The Prestige.
In The Prestige, because but this is. Can you take that line from that guy from Beck and go, yeah, he's right. This is what I should do.
Right.
And in your quote compromise yourself, but you're not. What do you really want to do?
You've
with this?
been bouncing around trying everything else.
Yeah.
And it just takes one, expert to tell you, like, dude, stop with this other shit.
Yes.
This is the showstopper.
Are you pure hokey magician, or are you going to do the great tricks?
Right. So, he really didn't know what to make of all this. There was this kind of internal turmoil. And then Beck wires him a couple of days later, says, you can open Omaha March 26th, $60. We'll see act. Probably make you a proposition for all next season. Within months, Beck Has Houdini is the most in-demand vaudeville act across the country.
This guy Beck.
Yeah.
Jesus
He
Christ.
knew his shit. So then
More writing from Matt.
then Houdini's getting famous as this escape artist. And so with that fame, you attract haters, right? Other professional magicians who
Naysayers of rebellion.
they're sipping the haterade of the day.
Yeah. Young Houdini's fake.
You see this guy. He's not a magician. What is he doing here?
Not even fucking
Right.
Italian.
Right.
Like
There's no
comedians say,
cards
this guy's
in
bringing
this tank.
He's bringing a guitar on
Yeah.
stage. Like
He's
comedians,
got a tank full of water. Come on.
So he's not doing that yet. He's not doing the water. He's just doing fucking getting out of shit.
But yeah, the guys who would never get that billing ever, they're the ones complaining
Hey,
that they didn't
come
get that
on.
billing. Why is he getting
Because
it?
he can do it.
Also, just at that time, I was saying this to Aaron the other day about the new cinema thing in the early 1900s, and you would have B picture comes from actually the second picture after the main picture.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like B movies, you mean?
Yeah, B movies. And then in between, though, it was like the cartoon before. And then in between, you would have serials, one of which I just found out, that's the first Batman you have on screen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's like 1941, like when the comic started.
Yeah.
It's like felt.
Oh, it's terrible.
Of course.
Versus the Wizard is the like a Batman villain that ever existed.
Yeah, and there's a guy in there playing the piano too.
But because it's new art, it's like freeform. So in this way, like we fell into like format with movies.
Yes,
absolutely. Whereas it used to be just like, I don't know,
Sit
man.
here and sit in the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Keep them here.
Yes.
And I think with the traveling, shit with circus and everything else, like we were saying, like with the Buffalo Bill, like Western, like it was just like, all right, well, just people are going to come out no matter what. There's nothing else going on,
Right.
So showing them something brand new,
Yes.
and they're like, okay, well, I've seen magic,
Right.
And then all you're doing is stacking up this guy against the next,
Right. Well, I mean, it's been a constant issue, ebb and flow in the whole history of the people with the money. They want a sure thing, and so the new ideas are not a sure thing.
Right?
I mean, look right now. If you have an idea for a reboot, they're going to take that over an original idea just because they know a reboot is a sure thing.
Yeah.
And so it's always been this constant fight between those ideas.
Right. Yeah. But there's the thing where you go like, the people that look at money go like, how much does it cost? And you go like, locks.
We own the rights.
Locks and water are pretty cheap.
Right. Well, I mean, the card tricks.
The cops bring the locks.
Yeah.
The card tricks are the sure thing. The escape is if it will change magic forever, but it hasn't done it yet, so it's not a sure thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It frightens and confuses people.
Yeah. And the reason why I do still think it is really magic is like,
Oh, it's magic. Yeah.
I think about, like, I mean, those cops must have been so pissed too. Like, Because there's a part where you're announcing to, if you're in Albany, hey, man, if you try hard enough, like, we can't keep you in jail. I don't care how big of a scumbag you are. Like,
if practice, you can get out.
Yeah.
He would write a book called The Right Way to Do Wrong. And it was a book all about how to do crime.
Good God.
That's amazing.
On the next one, maybe I'll have some of the excerpts.
Stay tuned, folks.
Awesome. That's good.
That's incredible.
Yes. Like, the British government asked him to stop publishing it, so he did.
Jeez.
It was just like, fuck, this is good. So, he got into a feud with this guy during his rise. He didn't have top billing right away, but it was a very short order where he was starting to take over top billing from not really necessarily other magicians, but other acts in vaudeville.
Sure.
But with that notoriety, you start to get the eye of competitors that think he's, it's not graceful, right? It's brutish. It's bullshit. It's very base.
Well, then also you talk some shit to the promoters.
Oh yeah, and
you
was
like
shit talker.
But also your competitors would.
Yes.
You don't want to book Houdini,
Right.
X, Y, and Z.
He can't do this.
You don't want to book Houdini saying you don't want to book the great fucking
Schmo.
X, Y, and Z. Like,
Right.
So he would he started getting top billing in 1899, and he got into a public fight, not a fist fight, but with quote unquote enigmatic bearded weirdo Professor Alfred Benson. I don't have a picture, but maybe we'll find
Probably
him.
not a professor. Not a professor.
He would call himself the King of Cards. And that would, and still, even though Houdini had pretty much given up cards, it still infuriated Houdini that he would clip the advertisement out, put it in his scrapbook, and write "not" right in front of King of Cards. By all accounts, Benson was a great card manipulator. He could take a thoroughly shuffled deck and, with his eyes closed, mix the cards and deal each person at the table a predetermined poker hand.
wow.
Di Vernon said that he was one of the greats and that he had a $250,000 insurance policy on his hands.
Wow.
And this is at the turn of the century.
That's how you know you're great, when the insurance company says you are.
Jesus Christ.
Benson started the fight by writing a long story in the San Francisco Examiner titled Houdini's Tricks Exposed. He did not reveal anything. He did say that he's got a key. He was trying to humiliate the quote-unquote professor of trickery. He just mocked Houdini. And Houdini was like, And so the guy's saying that, like, he's got keys and, he's a fake. And so Houdini replies in the next day's paper and says, "This man Benson makes himself ridiculous. He pretends to describe the handcuff trick, but instead gives an imaginary narration of an alleged performance and proceeds to explain how simple it all is. I do nothing of the sort. He has exposed nothing. I will wager him any amount of money from $1,000 upward that I do all this I have described, and he cannot do any part of it or explain it. He's a puzzle salesman and copied his alleged expose from an old book of magic. The book sells for 10 cents, and as suckers are born every minute, it's still in print."
Damn.
Puzzle salesman is a good dig at a magician.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's fucking nice.
Dude, his revenge stories are epic. And this is just...
So that's the thing too, is that, like, it's like, very much fellas, in opposition to kind of our own time. There is this thing where, like, the final word kind of gets heard in the court of debate, and that's why you have the spiritualists, and you have the debunkers, and you have the people that'll be like, "I'm the guy that calls out how that shit is not real," and that guy, even though he's a charlatan,
Right.
he's a charlatan for hire,
Right.
So he can call out other charlatans, right, and so it's this, like, there's this thing going on. Where, like, like Houdini at the time, like you were saying, with the papers.
The papers.
He writes all this copy.
Yeah.
And then the guy in the street is going, like, all right, well, that's fine for a while, but, like, eventually the guy in the street wants to know, like, no, what do you, the Philadelphia Examiner, say about this act?
Right.
I'm not going to listen to... Because, it was...
Well, it's the paper of record wherever they live.
But also, like, it's like it's just the same as the internet now. Like, ads and news were, like, interchangeable.
Yeah.
and even the ads try to look like news articles.
Oh yeah.
So, eventually people were going like, listen, all I hear is bullshit all day, every day.
Let me see this.
So let me see what's fucking real.
Yeah.
So you had this kind of like court of public record being like, I'm getting scammed all the time. This goes back to like the Sea Monkeys thing.
Yeah.
And just being like, okay, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is real?
Right. So
and the public has that sort of attitude.
David Copperfield says as much about this. He goes like, nobody ever aspired to pull a fucking dove out of a handkerchief.
Yeah.
Houdini is doing what people wanted to do, which was escape.
Yeah.
Yes.
From the drudgery of everyday life and the oppression of existence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody gives a shit about a wand with flowers coming out. Like,
Yes.
He was doing real. He was being a hero.
Yes. Because the sale is the ideas you get after you see the act.
Exactly.
The inspiration you get after you see the act.
Right.
Yes.
Where you're going like, nothing is written.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's the great miss of the argument that guy's using against Houdini. First off, he's a phony. Look, you guys are both magicians. For you to call him a phony is quite rich. But the second thing is that he's missing is that the thing Houdini is doing is way more real to people than what he is doing with cards. Because he's doing card tricks.
Yes.
That's not as real to people as someone escaping from certain death in water. Or even if he's not doing that yet.
You want to know what the best part is? Professor Benson was almost certainly a plant.
Yes, of course. Because Houdini's going, you have to come to my show to find out.
Like controversy.
Of course.
Yes.
Could have even been Houdini himself.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it's a real person.
It was a real person.
So brilliant. That is so
But
fucking brilliant.
maybe Houdini goes, hey, you want to do like it's a wrestling feud.
It is a wrestling feud.
Yes.
Feud. Get in the newspapers. We'll talk shit to each other. Both our acts will share.
Right, and then Booker T he's just about to say it. And you're like, no, don't say it, Booker.
No.
So the Benson guy says that Houdini has a key in his mouth, or he's got. Says, you know what? I'll do my shit naked. So
But you see these big balls, Benson?
So you can fit a bunch of keys in there.
A few days after the Benson feud in the newspaper, he starts doing his escapes naked. He goes to the San Francisco police station, stands in front of, he's stripped in front of a dozen detectives. They thoroughly examine him.
Oh, I love
They tape his mouth shut.
Oh.
They put 5 handcuffs on his wrists,
so hot.
5 on his ankles, and 1 pair of cuffs connecting the 2 bunches from wrist to ankle.
Nothing on his balls?
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a cock ring.
Yeah,
or
okay.
something like that.
Yeah, Prince Albert.
Cool.
They carry him naked into a room and leave him on the floor. 5 minutes later, he's out, still naked, mouth still taped, and the handcuffs are connected in a daisy chain.
See, that's artistry right there. That's a little touch.
So, I mean, but are they in on it?
No.
The cops are not in on it.
No.
Cops are only in on their own schemes, John.
At this point, no.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense, too.
It would make the cops look bad, right? But as we get into later stuff, there may be some collusion with certain members of the police.
Well, that's the thing, too, though, is that like what I'm saying is, the ill will that would come from law enforcement would make you want to capitulate to some degree, where you'd be like, all right, some of the takings are going to be like for you guys, because I'm making a fool of you.
Well, maybe, but they could be like they enjoy the attention.
No, but we've talked about so many times in this program how the cops hate being made fools of. Like,
right, but
they hate the Batman.
But Houdini breaking out of that is such it's an act that the cops are basically stagehands, so they get to be in on the act.
But it takes away their authority.
Yeah, it's subversive.
It is.
I wouldn't completely agree with that, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, people. I mean, they don't want people to escape. Like, they're supposed to be the law.
Yeah, but Houdini escaped, not Joe Schmo.
But the act, like what we're saying,
wasn't always Houdini.
I know what you're saying. This is just my counter.
So
this is Matt does. He goes. I know you're right. But
no, I mean, I don't think you are. But we're not going to get anywhere by back and forth because I know what you mean.
It's not that I don't. Feud.
It's not that I don't know your argument. I know what you mean. But
so he's doing nude escapes all the time, or like maybe a little fucking ball bag. The irony was that he was a huge prude. like later, like when he would do movies and stuff, wouldn't want to like kiss the other actresses and stuff like that.
He loved his wife.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he loved her so much that one time she sat on a guy's lap as a joke and he lost his fucking mind.
And that's trouble.
But had no problem getting naked for these cuff escapes and stuff like that. I mean, he had a great physique, so it was also a draw. Like, the posters showing him with this kind of, bulging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of pictures of him when he's, especially later again with the water, but he's wearing the bathing suit and he's ripped.
Yes.
Yeah. There's something about that too with like what I would call a circus physique.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Which even like you can even see like Alex Ross when he's doing like the older stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like it is that more wiry.
Yes.
And it has this air of because it's that time survival.
Yeah. It's earned muscle, not like body built.
Yeah, because they didn't.
And it's like I survive anything. Like it's not Arnold.
Yes. No. Very different.
No, it's not Cable.
Yeah.
it's like dude, I am a wiry rat.
It's a Greek statue.
It's still very heroic, but I would say it's even more raw than a Greek statue.
Oh, it is. It's more built than a Greek statue, but yeah.
For these next months, he would be in police stations performing naked across the country. The St. Louis Dispatch said that he performed for the St. Louis police in a costume so brief he had no place to conceal keys or wires. And they published a series of near-naked Houdini sketches. In Buffalo, he wore nothing at all as he worked his way out of a rusty old pair of English cuffs. In Philadelphia, he performed his needles trick while in charming and total dishabille, which totally naked.
Yeah.
Damn.
Only once did any police station stop him from getting naked. Take a guess where.
Great question.
Plymouth, Massachusetts?
New York City, baby.
Oh.
That don't go.
Prude.
He starts taking his clothes
York
off in the
City.
police station, and the guy goes, that don't go.
Oh.
Where are you going to hide that dick? My mouth?
You got to keep your clothes on. So, by the end of 1899, Houdini is making $400 a week, which is almost $6 million a year.
Very nice.
Huge crowds, newspaper notices in every town. And then just like that, he decides to pack it up.
No.
And goes to London, England to start all over again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet that's where we're pausing.
It could be where we pause, yeah.
Oh, it's up to you. I mean, you're the profiler in chief.
Well, I will say this.
Say what you're going to say.
As we go forward, he will be performing some of these tricks at one Scotland Yard.
No.
Where he would meet one Mr. Melville.
Oh.
Who would later become the inspiration for M in Ian Fleming's James Bond series.
Really?
Yes. And they would have a bit of a professional relationship as Houdini would tour Europe.
No shit.
Wow, that's cool.
Dude, that's fucking sick.
So we'll leave it there.
Very nice.
That is,
Houdini International Man of Mystery, baby.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, though, where you go like, at that point in your career, and at that point in time, is that the more lucrative move?
To be a spy?
Go to London.
No,
to go to England, yes.
Tour England.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
To
yeah.
go to Europe is the... it's a bigger gamble because he built this base here in America, but it's still a very young country. It's 120 years old, right?
Yes, but America has,
These fucking yokels that believe in spiritualism.
But also,
there's a much larger infrastructure of theaters.
the gold rush, and I'm sorry, but like slavery, like there's a lot of like wealth that America accrues that like they have a lot of like.
Yes, but they didn't have the generational wealth, and they didn't have the rich history of stage and performing that Europe had. Europe had, has about 1,500 years on.
Yeah, it was a very, very big thing for vaudeville acts and a lot of theater acts.
Yes.
If you are good, you go to England and you double your receipts.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, and I think it's still kind of true, which is sad, but it's like when you go there, you're taken so seriously.
Well, it was also a thing. I mean, the Marx Brothers faced it. England didn't get their jokes. They had to change their act.
Interesting.
But they had to. Their talent guide. It said you have to go to England to prove that you are who you say you are.
Yeah. And like, it's like, I tell you about like my dad, like growing up over there and like him being like a little kid watching like cowboy stuff in Ireland. And like, it was like, America is the mystique.
Yeah,
it's
the Wild West.
It's
the frontier.
Yeah.
But like, you would understand how like people would come over there and do well because they're just like, oh my God, there's fucking people from like the frontier, like.
Right. But at the same time, the mystique is, that's not proof over. If you go to England and you are good, then you're proven in the real world.
Yeah, the
not
big
the
leagues.
mystique.
Proven in the big leagues.
Yeah, and without as much I think the well, let's see how much you do tonight, kid.
Yeah.
Like they'll just go like, hey, we're going to pay you this much.
Great shit.
Very good.
Yeah, it's not so barkery.
Yeah.
There's an air of sophistication.
Yes.
You still have monarchies and British. There's empires there.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. No, so obviously, that makes sense.
but it's a big gamble for him.
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, also it's a thing where it is like really entering yourself into the annals of history. Like,
Yeah.
that is,
And to go to Scotland, I mean, he's going to England.
and he's also going home.
He's going.
So
home.
that's part of it too, where it's like,
Although he never told people that he was not American. He would till he died. He said he was born in America.
but
for
him at home with his father barely speaking English.
Yeah.
That's where most of his time was. Yeah. So there's a part of him that's going to want to go back and be like, okay, well, let's see how this does in all the palaces or, whatever. Like, I mean, that is really fucking exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a big part, too, of shoving it up their asses that they chased you out of the fucking continent.
Yeah.
So that is, like, fucking really exciting.
Yeah. It's pretty badass. He goes to the most famous police station in the world to break out other shit. Scotland Yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they line fucking up for it.
Oh.
Yeah, and even the cops got naked.
Yeah.
Bugger's gotten out of the shackles again, I'm afraid.
I think he may have a key bucket up his brown.
If he doesn't,
Johnson, shall
I
we take a
do.
look and grab my magnifying glass and my drooling cup.
Is there anything up mine?
I hope he doesn't speak Paddy, because these drunk wretches will have a night on the town.
We'll beat the hell out of him if he does.
Aaron, incredible stuff.
Very
It's
exciting.
even better. Thank you.
It is. I mean, like it is. With my love of prison escapes
In prison.
and my love of prison, which I spent many a year.
Prison babes.
Caged heat.
Yeah.
It really speaks to me. I really love it so much. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I can't
Me
wait
too.
for part 2. Yeah. Very excited.
Great fucking job, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
fellas.
Valentine's.
Yeah.
We've had some Valentines.
We
together.
have.
We've had some Valentines.
times.
Valentine's. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say goodnight. I love you, Mike. Stay tuned for part 2.
Please.
Guys, Harry Houdini, buy some fucking shirts. Try and build a studio. What's wrong with you?
Don't you want to have high quality video and audio?
Don't you want to wear some kind of
High quality
fucking
spun
weird, sort of rape joke from a famous motion picture on your chest?
Come on. What do you think? Piss is number 2?
Yeah, it's not.
Are you stupid?
That's duty.
And it's your duty
It's
to
your
buy
call.
this shirt.
It's your call of duty. All right, fellas, we're gonna pick it up next time. I'm really just so excited about this one. I really love it.
very happy.
I'm gonna say goodnight. My name is John Fahey.
I'm Aaron Pita.
Matt Purcell.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Good night.
Scarpins Audio.